Real estate syndicators, real estate fund managers, anyone raising capital. A recent case by the SEC is a good example of what not to do when raising capital using social media. Teddy Miller and Bear Lute, L-U-T-E, was his company. He had a pretty decent TikTok following, some Instagram, website where investors could sign up for the last couple of years, and now he's kind of been dubbed as the Wolf of West Virginia because that's where he was located. But he raised about $400,000 from investors, supposedly for different types of real estate, almost fix and flip deals. He promised certain returns, which is usually a very not a good thing to do. That's a tip. Never promise a return. You can have a target, expectation, and always disclaim that, even if I've done this before, past performance is not indicative of future results. So he was basically promising all these huge returns and guaranteeing distributions. He didn't do any of that. So he was flat out lying. He was making false account statements, making it look like investors were getting returns when they weren't. In fact, they're alleging that most of the money was actually being used to pay for his personal expenses, which if you look at his TikTok, there's a lot of vacations and travel on there, which could be what we're talking about. He's actually in jail right now, facing criminal charges and several hundred years actually in prison. But the SEC also filed a civil case against him. And what's interesting is it's an explanation in Regulation D, Rule 506C. Under 506C, which has become more popular lately, you can post things on social media, you can generally solicit and advertise a private offering to the public, essentially. It's almost like a pseudo public offering. And you can put it on social media or wherever. You always have to be careful of anti-fraud rules, so don't misrepresent or straight out lie. Make promises that you cannot fulfill, anything like that. That's always going to be a problem. He also did some things that violated 506C. So 506C is for accredited investors only, and you have to verify through a third party that they are accredited. That means getting tax returns, bank statements, verification letter from a CPA to say that yes, they are accredited. And also, you want to make sure it's only targeted to accredited investors. In this case, he was telling people on his TikTok, I'll let anybody invest in my deal. You can put $100 in, doesn't matter, I'll let anyone in, which is not true. You have to limit it to accredited investors only if you're going to publicly advertise like that under 506C. You also have to file a Form D with the SEC. There's a number of steps you have to take. He didn't do any of them. So they said he violated, he didn't use a proper exemption. So if you are doing an offering and you want to use social media, I always recommend put in the posts accredited investors only. And then if you want to have a link on a website, put some kind of firewall or some portal to get in where they have to get a password to get to the offering docs, and they have to sign and check the box, something saying, yes, I am an accredited investor, I make over $200,000 a year, whatever it is, to get to the point where they have a password where they can see that information. Now, basically the offering can only be accredited investors, but even the solicitation of an offer is what the SEC is saying is like, even when you're out there telling people about it, you should really make sure that it's clear that it's accredited investors only, even when you're out just trying to solicit, even before they get to your website or before they see the materials. So you want to make that clear to people. This really is accredited investors only, and we are going to verify that you are accredited if you actually fill out a subscription agreement. So that's a word of caution. If you're going to post anything on social media, make sure it's completely accurate, not misleading. Don't make any kind of promises. Just give estimates or targets. And if you are using it, it would be a 506C. And make sure it's clear that it's accredited investors only and that you're going to have to verify that they are accredited. Talk to a securities attorney because you want to make sure that you get a Form D or any blue sky filings, which are state securities filings, to make sure you stay compliant. And usually you want to have a PPM that shows exactly what you are doing, that you disclose everything and all the risks involved to your investors.